Welcome to Truly Heal and Healing at Home. Today we look at detoxification, how to get rid of toxins in your home environment and how to do it most effectively. Now, for those of you who need convincing that you have toxins in your system, well, let's just look at some of those slides. It's actually the big iceberg underneath the surface. If you go to the doctor because of joint problems or chronic fatigue or depression or any of those diseases that we look at today, that's just the tip of the iceberg. The big problem is underneath. And let me just try to visualize that for those who haven't seen any of those slides. We have a huge burden, a huge toxic load going into our system. And those of you who remember just our gut impairments, our biome, all the bacterial load can throw out massive amounts of thioethers and toxins into our system. Hormone toxins, environmental toxins, all of that will fill into what we call the bucket theory. The bucket is when you are born, not empty. It's actually filled usually to 1 or 2/3 already with all the inherited toxins that you have been passed on from your parents. Now, there is a little detox drain, as you can see here in this image below. That's where you detoxify. Now, that is a very small process today compared to what it was earlier. We're not walking anymore. We have drive-thrus and we have a lot of convenience today where we don't work out as much as we did. So detox pathways have been reduced, and I'll talk about that in a moment. And as soon as your bucket fills up with environmental choices, it's from 16 on to about 30, we have our very unconscious period of life where we do more damage to our body than we should. And all of that accumulates until the bucket overflows. And that's the symptom, the tip of the iceberg, which you then run to the doctor for. But the problem is what's already there. And that's what we need to deal with in regards to detoxification. Now, evolution, 100,000 generations, we had very minimal exposure. And only in the last 2 or 3, we've added over 50,000 new chemicals and toxins into our environment that we never had before. We've added radiation, our nuclear power plants, our accidents that we have, our radiation has tripled in just the past 3 years. We have air and water pollution from all the wash-off, fertilization, sprays, coal burning, all of that. We have dietary poisons that we use to kill off the bugs. Then drugs. And that alone is a big problem. If you take pharmaceutical drugs, they need to be broken down by the liver and detoxified through the system. That alone can be a massive burden, which we know in the list of side effects causes detrimental poisoning of your system. And then we have lifestyle stress and infections, as we spoke before, with all those thioethers washing into your system. Now, on the other side, we have inherited DNA damages, DNA impairments. And for those of you who haven't seen that, I'll create a separate video on that because it's a huge element that needs to be regarded, which is not taken into account by any normal doctor. You can have all your detox pathways impaired, which means there is no drain in the bucket. You don't get rid of toxins, you build up. This little drain has been almost eliminated, and that's just purely from DNA damage. Then you've inherited a high toxic load. Let's just say your mom had already a DNA impairment and has passed on huge amounts of toxins to you. And then you have a destroyed biome, cesarean, no proper build-up of bacterial load, which then adds to the problem. Now, all of this is supported by an incredible load of toxins, 40,000 industrial chemicals, of which 75% have not been tested for human and environmental toxicity. Now, when you think about that alone, and then the interaction of all the different toxins, it's quite ridiculous what we have. And you see that in studies that we should be really grateful for, like the environmental health group, Ken Cook. They did a study on 10 Americans right after birth, freshborn baby, cut the umbilical cord, and then took the toxins out of the blood and tested for 500 toxins. And the result then shows 134 carcinogens in a freshborn baby, 158 toxins that cause brain and nerve damage, 186 infertility, and we know that's going through the roof, and then 150 cause birth defects, abnormal development. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. The problem is the toxicity that is underneath, and 287 toxins per baby on average shows that there is already no proper development anymore. Now, when you think, what is the best time to do a detox? Most people would say, well, when I get sick, or even later, if nothing else helps and all my treatments don't work, then I'll consider a detox. It should be done prior to getting babies, prior to creating offspring. That's when the main effect happens, and then all the time afterwards, because we have a daily intake. So getting rid of toxins on a regular basis should be part of our upbringing. But that's completely ignored because we usually only deal with issues once it's too late. Now, going through all the different toxins, on tap, drugs on tap, is a big problem today. When you look at the water that you have on your tap, and especially when you have a hot shower, you breathe in all those toxins, medications, hormones, endocrine disruptors, dioxins, radioactive material, all the heavy metals, petrochemicals, plastic toxicity is shocking. But because it's such a mini amount every single time, everybody says, I live in a very clean environment. We don't have that problem. Well, it builds up. Heavy metal toxicity, for example, is not visible. You don't see heavy metals, but still they accumulate in your body. And when you think about a lifetime of build-up, bucket theory, that's when the problem then sets in. Now, heavy metals are the result of industrial waste, soil, air, and water pollution. The main problems are lead, arsenic, nickel, mercury, nickel, aluminium, cadmium, and there is no safe levels for the human body. Well, if you see the charts that I show you in a moment, then you know that safe levels is a long past the point. We've done over 1,000 charts, and from all of those patients, not one was in a safe area which didn't have yellow or red areas. Accumulation is in fat cells, bones, glands, brain, and your central nervous system, which results in all those degenerative diseases, not just the one that you have, like many of them. And then we have heavy metal blocks nutrient, mineral absorption. We'll talk about that in a lot more detail. All right, now let's jump into the main issues that a lot of people have and don't even know. When you have a toxic load, you don't know that your disease that you have comes from that. Inflammatory issues, and that's a lot of different problems, and we talk about inflammation separately, but when you have any kind of inflammatory problems, you have joint problems, autoimmune problems, anything is a result of heavy metal toxicity. So when you go to your doctor because you have arthritis or you have aches and pains and stiff, then that's not the problem that needs to be dealt with, it's the toxicity. Female reproductive problems, menstruation difficulties, infertility, fibroids, endometriosis, fibrocystic breast disease, which is a precursor of any kind of breast cancer. All of those are caused by heavy metals, and there is a direct link of heavy metal poisoning and breast cancer. Then we have impaired blood sugar regulation and diabetes affected by heavy metal toxicity. Neurological issues, pure memory, brain fog, Alzheimer, ADD, ADHD, autism, all of that directly linked to toxicity. Then we have fatigue, chronic fatigue. A lot of people know that any form of chronic disease like cancer directly, and hundreds of research studies support that, caused by heavy metal, which is a carcinogen. And then we have depression, poor immunity, and disease, digestive issues, leaky gut, IBS, Crohn's disease, all of them, food sensitivities triggered by heavy metal toxicity. Now let's look very short, and I'll stretch that so that you can really see that. This is a short video. I just cut every single chart underneath each other so that you can see as we go through an average of about 20 or 30 people. And I haven't picked any specific ones. There are probably worse. I just took the 20 that are underneath each other to show you the results. Aluminium, the first one, silver, and mercury always go hand in hand because your amalgam fillings are mixed between silver and mercury. So when you have high mercury, you usually have also an elevated level of silver. Then there is cadmium, there is beryllium, there is arsenic. Now if we work through this and you can see it running, look at yellow levels are already very dangerous. We know that there is no safe environment for toxicity, but you can see there is people who have overall high levels and some detoxify better. Now this one, for example, the first one or this one here are very significant toxic levels within a human body that then link to cancer, depression, Alzheimer, autism, all of those diseases that we need to get rid of. And when you have a chart like that, there is nothing that you can do to deal with the disease or get rid of any of those diseases without dealing with those, big problems underneath the surface. That's going away as soon as you start to reduce the size of this. All right. Now let's just pull this back into proportion. Okay, I stretched this too high just to get my slide afterwards correct. All right, back here. Okay, and now let's look into some slides that I already had, and I didn't want to make them again because I think they're already perfect. They show you very clearly the process of pollution of the body. So when you have heavy metals or any kind of toxicity going into your body, it has different stages where it pollutes different areas of the body. Number one would be it goes through the skin into the extracellular fluid. All your cells swim, like Bruce Lipton says, in a petri dish, which has a skin around it. And that skin can be penetrated by creams and petrochemicals and everything, or the lungs, or what you drink through the gut, and then it goes into the extracellular fluid. There it swims in the bloodstream to all places in the body, and from there it then penetrates into the intracellular fluid, which is within the cell. So the cell membrane, the skin is the body membrane, and then you have many tight junctions which then are passed through into the bloodstream and from the bloodstream back into the cell. Now, all of those are causing a different field of danger. When you have, for example, toxins in the extracellular fluid, that causes acidity and it blocks the cell membranes from taking up nutrients, minerals, vitamins, and carrying oxygen to the cell. When you have it in the bloodstream, it means that it can circle anywhere, and a part of your body that is stagnant, that's where toxins will settle most, especially in fat tissue. And then you have the intracellular toxicity, and that's really the dangerous part when it is moving from the bloodstream into the extracellular and then into the intracellular fluid. That's where it causes DNA damage, causes mitochondria blockages. It creates damage to your repair mechanism of the cell, to the ATP production, and causes mutations or cancer cells, as we know. So dealing with that is very important, which means we need to get it out of all systems and not just out of the cell into the extracellular, because it will go straight back. Now let's look at the cell, how they work. Number one, they have a lipid profile. Every cell has a membrane. Bruce Lipton says it's the brain of the cell. It's the intelligent part, because that's where your receptors are. Ion channels, sodium channels, potassium channels, all the glucose channels. They allow nutrients to go into the cell and waste product to leave the cell. Now, if that all works proper, your cell has a membrane potential. There is a negative charge and a positive charge outside that causes the membrane to be stable and solid and works properly. Now, that's between 60 and 80 millivolt of discrepancy between inside and outside voltage. Now, when those membranes are blocked, and you can see that in this image really well, then no nutrients can go in. And that's very significant. All of those different heavy metals have certain antagonists to certain nutrients. So if you have certain minerals blocking mercury, poisoning, then certain nutrients can't go into the cell. That means you're deficient. And Burton Goldberg said that very nicely. We live in the land of plenty and starving to death because our cells don't get the nutrients because the heavy metal poisoning blocks that nutrient uptake. So what we want to do is we want to shake those toxins loose. And there is plenty of different things you can do. Exercise, for example, intense exercise on a trampoline will help with that. And solid movement and aerobics and all of that will help to shake that loose. Now, a lot of people don't really love to do that kind of exercise. And that's where PMF is one of the most significant treatments to increase that effect. You can use it general, in 5 places, because it's such a big magnetic field. It will shake those cells loose and clear out the membrane channels. Or you can really intensify the treatment and do lung treatment and neck treatment and muscle treatment and shoulder treatment and liver treatment and intensify that treatment very much by doubling up or rolling up that loop into a very intense treatment. Now, to do that and to pulse that massive magnetic pulse into your body will then create all your toxins to be shaken loose. And you can see that. They're rattled loose. All those ion channels are cleaned out. And then they close up. As soon as you turn off the device, all of those toxins go back into your system. Block the cells and nothing really changes. And that's why it's not quite true. You still feel an improvement but it also causes Herxheimer reaction. It causes your body to just shift the toxins from one place to another. And that's why we always recommend to fill in binders into your system. Binders are charged molecules that bind to heavy metals as soon as they are freed. And that's what happens straight away. You shake them loose with PMF. You prime your extracellular liquid with binders, zeolite and citrus pectin. I think I have them listed here. Yes, modified citrus pectin, very powerful. Then you have edible clay, Pure South, very beautiful. They have an edible clay product that is absorbed into your system. You can use ACZ nanospray, which you just spray into your mouth, sublingual, absorb into the bloodstream, and it binds to heavy metals. This is very good because it's nanoparticles, so it crosses the blood-brain barrier to help with detoxifying toxins, heavy metals out of the brain. Magnetic clay, zeolite, modified citrus pectin, chlorella, very good binder, and activated charcoal, and there's quite a few more, and I list some underneath. Now, if you do that, your toxins are bound, eliminated, and on the other side through urine and stool, and then your nutrients can go back into the cell. And that's where we need then all of a sudden that uptake of nutrients, energy is increasing, and you see that massive change. One of the significant factors of PMF is not only that you detoxify, through that increased nutrient uptake and oxygen uptake, and the charge that your cells get, it's like, one of those balloons, all of a sudden they blow back up, and you can see it in the image. Your white blood cells almost triple in size. They start to get mobile and active because they get the nutrients that they need and then start working again. So it's a very significant part of the treatment that will increase your detox manyfold. And if you have a doctor, just book at least 2 sessions a week where you can go and have just a 15-20 minute treatment with a PMF device, and that will increase your detox, and if it's a strong ringer device, your pathogenic load that we spoke about last time very much. So it's a double effect. You kill off pathogens, you detoxify, and you clear out all your channels with one treatment, and that's why it's so significant. Now, toxins are the bad guys. We know that. Darth Vader. But they are very specific bad guys for certain nutrients. For example, mercury blocks selenium, zinc, iodine. Arsenic blocks also zinc, but magnesium and selenium. Aluminium blocks magnesium, iron, manganese, and zinc. So if you have a chart like we had before, let me just go up very short. If we have a chart and you see you have here high aluminium, you have high silver and high mercury, then it's quite important to look, if I find it again, which mineral you need to take in order to supplement wisely. And that's something that we teach our coaches, we teach our health practitioners, because it's very significant. It's not just done with washing out a few toxins. You need to supplement in the right way to do it proper, so that the process is really done. And you can see here zinc, for example, implications of low zinc, what it does. See, it creates foggy head, twitches, pure memory, pure digestion, reduces enzyme production. Synergistic nutrient to uptake are vitamin A, B6, D, E, cysteine, glutathione, insulin, magnesium, and manganese. That helps with the absorption, and it helps with detoxifying, and as an antagonist, if you have plenty, to wash out toxins for lead, cobalt, cadmium, nickel, mercury. So it's a bit of a balance. Nutrients need to be there in order to detoxify. In order to detoxify, you need to shake loose the toxins first for your body to take up the nutrients. And that's why it's always a combined treatment. Not just one alone will do it. It's always mixing them together. Magnesium, very, very important. Your cells won't be able to let go of toxins if you don't have enough magnesium. It makes the cell membrane soft so that they can detoxify. Then you have selenium, as we see in many of the different toxins. Very important that you have selenium. Iodine is very important, for example, for mercury and uranium, and synergistic nutrients, and water. Don't forget to drink water. When you have a PMF treatment or a sauna treatment, you want to drink before you do the treatment, probably while you do the treatment, and afterwards. And the more you drink, the more you flush out those toxins very effectively. Okay, now let's just go very short through, and I've listed them underneath with a bit more information. Exercise, very significant. It will increase your toxic output drastically. Then you have all sorts of sweat, perspiration. If you get rid of toxins through the skin, it doesn't need to be broken down in the liver. It's a huge relief for your system. So you can do daily half an hour sauna and really sweat. And it's a very joyful exercise. Use it as your meditation room. Go in and sit and sweat and relax. Very powerful. We recommend for a lot of people the dome, because the dome gives you two possibilities. It is a massive, intense sauna. And if you stay a little bit longer, then you turn it into a hypothermia treatment. So having that double bonus in one device, very easy to store away in a little corner, is a beautiful solution, and it helps you massive with the detox. If you put in white sheets or you put in a white long john and you go in and you have a high toxic load, you will see that it colors yellow and in all forms from all the toxic washout, because it's a deep tissue detoxification as soon as you heat up through your body core temperature and sweat from the inside out. And then you can use the detox box, very powerful, just a small version that you can fold up and put behind a cupboard if you don't have the space for one of those big saunas. And that's another question that we get all the time, the only way to increase body core temperature and to get into a state of hyperthermia, increased body core, that's possible only with the dome. Not even the detox box can achieve that. It's just too much evaporation, too much heat that is lost, especially in the big saunas. Sweating is great, but fever will only happen in the dome. And if you're interested in that, we have a whole series of videos that show you how to do that well. Clay is another issue. You can pull out toxins while you sit in a hot bathtub and you put clay, magnetic clay as it's called, into your bath, and that pulls out all the toxins. Then we have enemas. really well. They detoxify, they flush out from the liver directly into the bile duct, into the small intestine. So don't do it without building a buffer with plenty of binders. We spoke about chlorella, charcoal, zeolite. All of that will help to bind the toxins, because those toxins go in directly after your stomach. So they go through the whole intestine, through the whole colon, and many of them are reabsorbed if you don't have enough fiber and binders in your digestive tract. Dental detox, I don't think you can do that at home. That's a part that needs to be done by the dentist, but I'd recommend you check it. If you have still mercury fillings and other metals in your mouth, like here we have palladium, pins, then we have gold crowns, and then we have amalgam fillings in here. That's a toxic metal mix which causes galvanic reactions and corrosion. You get heaps of mercury, which is the lowest grade metal, released in your system if you have a combination. We spoke about infections, bacterial load. If that's washing out into your system from root canals and cavitations, it's another issue. So detoxify your mouth is very significant. We've seen so many patients get a lot better once that problem is resolved. And be careful that they don't talk you into many things, because they can be quite dangerous. You don't want to poison your body by putting in something that is not healthy either. Now, one part as a last slide, every tooth that you have in your mouth is actually correlating or connected with an organ. So if you have here certain front teeth, they're directed to your kidneys or linked to your kidneys and bladder and all your urinary system. So it's something that you need to check which teeth are linked to which organ, because that's where toxins travel. We don't know how. It's a meridian pathway. But if you have a high toxic load in one of your teeth, the adequate organ will be affected. And that's something that a holistic doctor or good practitioner or a truly healed coach will always check, because it's directly linked and correlating. So finding that correlation will show you, and let's just go back because I like that image so much, which of your problems up here is linked to the problems down here. And as soon as you know and you break the link, you resolve the problem, all of a sudden you lose the symptom, as we call the diseases that most people have. All right, and now just scroll down, read all the different articles that you can do to detoxify your system, and then choose wisely. You will notice that some of the treatments that we've listed for parasites and for infections are also related now to detoxification. When we go to the other chapters, you will see that they are relevant there too. So one device will cover many areas, and that's where you can save a lot of money instead of building a huge list of gadgets and miss out on those who help with all. All right? See you next time when we talk about deficiencies.